Tonight, in 10 minutes, you can begin a simple ritual at your bedside that trains a part of your perception we usually ignore, the soft, wide field of vision tied to what many traditions call the third eye. Do this for 7 nights, and you may notice corners of sight that used to be opaque begin to open. This is not a miracle guaranteed by law. It is a disciplined practice of attention that invites visibility where there was previously a veil. Some of the ideas I'll share come from writings outside the mainstream. Gnostic texts, such as the Gospel of Mary, describe techniques passed among a small circle of seekers to alter visual attention. Those texts frame certain unseen intelligences as operating by staying just beyond ordinary perception. Whether you accept the metaphors or the metaphysics, the practical core is straightforward and physiological. Your brain filters the flood of visual input, privileging what you look at directly and compressing the edges. By changing how you use your gaze in low light, you can let more of that edge information reach awareness. The poetic language of pineal awakening or third eye opening is useful as a container for that shift in attention. Consider them as traditional names for a capacity your nervous system can learn to exercise. Imagine the difference between looking through a narrow keyhole and holding the door slightly ajar. Most of the day, you look through the keyhole. The soft gaze ritual nudges that door open. Practically speaking, what you are training is not a mysterious organ alone, but a way the eyes and brain distribute attention, central focus versus peripheral field. Peripheral vision is sensitive to motion, subtle gradients, low contrast patterns, and certain frequencies of light that your straight-ahead sight often filters out. In dim conditions, those peripheral signals are especially telling. When you relax the focus stare and allow the whole visual field to be felt, the nervous system sometimes registers impressions that previously went unnoticed. If this speaks to you, type "awaken" in the comments. Join the 7-night experiment with others here. That one word is all it takes to signal intention and commitment. Now, how does this translate into a night ritual you can actually do before sleep? Set the scene. Create a neutral, dimly lit space at your bedside. A single small lamp or a salt lamp at very low brightness works well. The room should be visible but not illuminated. Remove busy patterns or bright screens from the field. Sit on the edge of the bed or in a nearby chair, whatever feels natural, or lie back if you plan to drift into sleep while practicing. The posture should be comfortable enough to relax into, but not so collapsed that you fall into immediate sleep, unless your goal is a wake-to-sleep transition practice. Keep your spine soft but supported and your jaw unclenched.
Begin with a short centering breath. Inhale slowly for 4 counts. Pause for 1. Exhale for 6. Repeat twice. These breaths calm excess tension and allow the eyes and face to soften. Bring your attention to your soft palate, the tiny space behind the upper teeth, and then to the area between and just above your brows, the cultural third eye point. Think of this not as a medical instruction, but as a gentle focal whisper, an internal place of attention you will sometimes rest on while keeping your external gaze unfocused. Allow your vision to unfocus. Don't stare. The aim is not to lock on to any one spot, but to let the eyes relax so that they take in the whole scene as a single, diffuse field. If you find the temptation to fix on a particular object, deliberately widen your awareness. Imagine your visual field like a sheet of silk, and let your awareness rest on the texture of the entire sheet rather than a single thread. This is the soft gaze. In low light, the soft gaze is the highway for peripheral impressions. Spend the first minute simply noticing the edges of your visual field. Attend to light gradients near the walls, a faint movement of dust motes, the silhouette of furniture, or the way shadows shift subtly. If nothing appears at first, that is normal. Do not force anything. The practice is about removing habitual pressure from the eyes and letting the sensory system rebalance. For the next several minutes, maintain that soft, unfocused sight while you breathe slowly and deliberately. You may adopt a counting pattern if it helps anchor your attention. Inhale for 4, hold 1, exhale for 6. Keep the count gentle. If the numbers become a task, let them go. While staying relaxed, shift a thin thread of internal attention to the third eye area between the brows, like a quiet spotlight beneath the surface of the forehead. This internal attention is subtle, not fixed. It acts like a tuning knob rather than a searchlight. One of the most important behavioral instructions is, if you notice movement, do not immediately turn your eyes or head toward it. Resist the reflex to look directly. Instead, keep the soft gaze and allow the peripheral impression to deepen. Practitioners report that when something in the periphery reacts to being observed, it changes in a way imagination rarely does. It may pause, move differently, or subtly orient. That responsiveness is the test many people use to distinguish emergent perception from random mental imagery. You are exercising a different kind of seeing, one that prefers presence over immediate identification. Do this nightly for 10 minutes. That is the effective short-form introduction period, 10 focused minutes per night for 7 consecutive nights. The time window is long enough to create a gentle habituation without overwhelming the nervous system.
If you prefer, you can split the 10 minutes into 2 5-minute segments, one right before sleep and one on waking, but the simplest protocol is the single 10-minute bedside practice that leads you toward sleep. If you drift off during the practice, allow sleep to come. The ritual can be an elegant doorway between waking attention and dreamful reception. If you opt to practice lying down with the intention of falling asleep, lean into an internal version of the soft gaze. Keep the eyelids partially open or hooded with the eyes not fixed. Maintain the internal focus at the brow while the body relaxes. If you fall asleep quickly, that's fine. Often the practice's subtle effects continue into the hypnagogic space, the transitional phase between waking and dreaming, where perception is more fluid. Many practitioners report vivid impressions, symbolic forms, or a heightened sense of presence in that state. But again, no guarantees. Experiences vary widely and are shaped by your nervous system, sleep patterns, and prior conditioning. Expectations matter. Some nights you may feel nothing at all. Other nights you may perceive quick flares of movement at the periphery, smeared layers of translucency, or a subtle sense that something shifted when you nudged your attention. People often notice an emotional tone change first, a quieting of anxious reactivity, a draining of urgent charge into observation. Others report momentary sensations behind the eyes, a subtle pressure, or the sense of being watched or watched over. All of these are possible. None are promised. Be discerning about what you interpret. Imagination is not your enemy. It will always provide imagery. The practical test I recommend is responsiveness. Real phenomena in the lore and in many practitioners' reports seem to alter their behavior when the observer holds steady and attentive. Imaginative content tends not to have that contingent responsiveness in the same way. If something in your periphery seems to shift when you direct non-reactive awareness toward it, for example, a streak of motion that dissolves or pauses, take note. Keep a simple notebook beside your bed and write a single sentence about the most notable impression when you finish your 10 minutes. Over a week, you'll collect a small record that helps you discern patterns. Safety and boundaries are central to this work. If at any point you experience dizziness, prolonged visual disturbances, panic, or emotional overwhelm, stop the practice immediately. Close your eyes, take 3 grounding breaths, and move your body. Wiggle your fingers and toes, stand up slowly, and drink water. If sensations persist or you feel unwell, seek professional medical or mental health support. This practice alters attentional habits, and for some people that can temporarily destabilize emotional equilibrium. That is why the protocol is short, conservative, and accompanied by grounding steps. A simple grounding sequence to finish each session. Close the eyes gently, take 3 deep, steady breaths. Feel the contact points where your body touches the bed or chair. Wiggle your fingers and toes, and speak a brief affirmation aloud or in your head, such as, I see, I am present, I am safe. These small actions re-establish embodied boundaries before you drift into sleep or return to activity. If you encounter imagery or sensations that are unsettling, do not feed them with fear. The work here is about reclaiming observation as a form of sovereignty. If something feels off, recenter on breath and body, end the session, and do a short grounding ritual. You might follow with a simple physical routine, a warm shower, light movement, calling a friend, or doing a familiar household task. Persistent distress should be discussed with a qualified therapist or healthcare provider. There is no shame in seeking help. Sensitivity varies among people, and honest care is part of any responsible practice. Integration is where the ritual becomes transformative. Start carrying intentional soft gaze moments into the day. At your kitchen sink, while standing at a crosswalk, or when you wake, practice a 30-second softening of the eyes. Use the environment as training ground, a window with neutral light, the space across a hallway, or the faint skyline at dusk.
These micro-practices help the nervous system generalize the habit you've built at night so that peripheral awareness becomes available in ordinary life. Place a small physical anchor in your home, a stone, a card with the word "see," a tiny lamp, and when you pass it, take one soft breath and briefly allow the gaze to expand. These anchor points are practical reminders that the capacity you train at night belongs to your everyday world. You may find language helpful as a boundary-forming instrument. If you notice impressions that feel like unwanted intrusions or manipulative undercurrents, try an internal affirmation that declares your limits without aggression. I see you. You have no hold here. Phrase it calmly and firmly, as if setting a polite but definite boundary. Often the simple act of naming, turning charged emotion into information, reduces its power. The practice turns intensity into observation, which is the essence of reclaiming agency. A short illustrative example might help. Think of Mara, a city professional who sleeps with blackout curtains and a small lamp by her bedside. She tried the 10-minute ritual for a week. In the first 2 nights, she noticed nothing but a pleasant relaxation. On night 3, she described a thin smear of movement in her right peripheral field that seemed to hesitate when she held attention. She did not confront it, she simply observed. By night 6, she had a clear, quiet impression of a figure-shaped distortion that changed posture when she stayed steady.
She felt less frightened than curious. When she grounded afterward, the visceral charge she had carried home from work settled more quickly. Mara did not receive any supernatural assurance. She gained a new way to notice and to choose how to respond. That shift in behavior diminished an old pattern of reactive anxiety. Her story is not universal evidence, but it models the practical promise of attention-based work: greater visibility than greater choice. A few practical cautions. Do not perform this practice while driving, operating heavy machinery, or when you need full, focused visual acuity. Do not combine this ritual with substances that alter perception or consciousness. Do not use it as a substitute for medical or psychiatric care. And when you describe your experiences, avoid language that promotes fear or sensationalism. The intent is empowerment, not alarm. After you complete the 7-night introductory cycle, take stock. Which nights felt most potent? Did certain times of evening work better? Did lying down before sleep or sitting upright produce clearer impressions? Use your notes to adapt the practice gently. Some people continue with 3 nights a week as maintenance. Others deepen the ritual by adding a short journal entry, a drawing, or a dedicated 10-minute morning soft gaze. The goal is sustainable expansion of perception, not escalation into risky experimentation. Another way to integrate this with daily life is to use simple reports as anchors. When you notice an instance of peripheral clarity, pause and name it mentally. Peripheral movement, checked. That small habit trains your metacognitive loop. Over time, you will build an internal library of sensory signatures and their usual meanings, which helps you navigate both subtle phenomena and ordinary signals like animal movement, airflow, or household noise. Visibility converts mystery into usable information. As you explore, remain curious and skeptical in equal measure. Curiosity keeps you open to subtlety. Skepticism keeps you honest about interpretation. The Gnostic texts that reference hidden techniques are one lineage of thought that frames perception as a contested terrain. Other traditions describe similar attentional practices under different names. Use these stories as maps, not mandates. The evening ritual I've described borrows language and metaphor from those sources, but stands on its own as an exercise in sensory training and boundary cultivation. If you want a simple checklist to remember as you prepare each night, dim the light, make the posture comfortable, soften your gaze, breathe slowly, hold internal attention between the brows, resist turning toward peripheral impressions, finish with grounding breaths and a tiny physical move. 10 minutes, 7 nights, a notebook by the bed. Those are your anchors. Closing a practice session with warm care matters. When you finish, whether you are about to sleep or get up from a chair, take 3 slower breaths. Feel the weight of your body pressing into the mattress or floor. Move your fingers and toes, and say a short phrase aloud, such as, "I choose to see. I choose calm." These small ceremonies build neural associations between seeing and safety. This night ritual invites you to reclaim perception as a tool of personal sovereignty. It asks you to train the edges of your vision, to remove the habitual narrowing that leaves you blind to certain frequencies of information, and to practice presence in the soft spaces of your awareness. It does not promise miracles or guaranteed activation of any gland. It offers a disciplined method, 10 minutes a night for 7 nights, that many people find begins to open a different register of experience.
If you try this 7-night sequence, share a single short line in the comments about what you noticed. If you'd like a guided audio to support the challenge, a gentle 10-minute bedside guide for each night, subscribe and I'll release a guided 7-night version designed for safe, steady practice. Whatever you do, practice with care. Stop if anything feels destabilizing. And remember, seeing is a skill you can cultivate. This night ritual awakens a certain kind of pineal third eye attention, not by promise, but by practice, a quiet reclaiming of visibility and the calm authority that comes when you learn to notice.